Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the Booze.
How's your leg?
My leg hurts so bad.
For the booze. We're back.
Yes, we are.
All our old people sciatic problems and everything. We're back.
Funny.
I'll leave you alone now. Now we're recording. I need people to think I'm nice to you.
Yeah, well, he's been really mean to me all night.
I would never. Mm-hmm. Maybe occasionally.
Oh, yeah.
Occasionally. But anyways, we're back. This is our first regular, normal episode again.
Yeah.
We're back to it. So
super excited.
we actually have a full length topic. We have a listener story.
Yes.
We have a Ben Spooky Corner.
Yes.
Haven't had one of those in a while.
I know.
And don't worry, Joe. I'm saving yours for the things that you sent in. I'm not going to say what they are, but they're very relevant to what we're going to be doing next week. And I believe next week is going to be a pretty big episode.
Yay.
So, we're back. And, you know what? Let's do the story first.
Okay.
Before we get into
I'm so ready.
Everything else.
I'm so excited.
Hey, Booze Crew. It's been a while. Do you remember the crack shack in the woods? Well, I went back. And this time, there was more creepy things happening. Not only did I hear knocks around the old broken down trailer, but I continued to hear, "Shh, they're coming soon." And as I went to the opposite side of the trailer, I had never ventured to it, and it got louder. And so did the knocks. In my mind, there were teenagers back there, and they thought they had been found out. That is until the hairs on the back of my neck started to stand up, and I felt a chill run down my spine. This was definitely out of place in the middle of summer in Georgia. Shh, they're coming. Had an odd sound to it this time, almost otherworldly, and the floorboard started to creak, and I reached for the doorknob. The knocks got louder, and so did, "Shh, they're coming." I slowly pushed the door open to see there was nothing or nobody in the room, other than a rocking chair and an old black and white photo. I must have lost my mind to go further inside, because when I did, the door slammed behind me, and the rocking chair moved. The windows were closed and locked, forcing me to use my body to get the hell up out of there. And as I ran, I could hear faint laughter. I haven't been back since.
Absolutely not. That, I do remember
The crack shack
in the woods.
The crack shack.
Yes.
Just say it.
The crack shack in the woods. Yes, I do remember that.
No.
And I found it creepy the first time, let alone finding out what else happened.
You got me bent. If you think I would never go back either.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Solid call on that one.
Like literally in the middle of the woods.
No.
What? No.
No, I hear crackheads in Georgia just as bad as Florida. So we got out of Dodge.
That we did.
I haven't really seen so much of that here.
Nope.
But if anybody's wondering, I've been told Utah is full, so we just beat the cutoff point. Sorry.
We did.
Sorry.
Yes. Guys. Whatever they're already building here is it.
Yeah.
So they finished that, and housing wise, all that, and that is it. At least the towns that are around us. So
she's being more literal about it. I was just joking. I was just meant
no, but
it's for us.
But it's for real.
No, I know that. Never mind. We're gonna move on. I think my phone just went off.
It did. I heard it. Hello?
This has been we've done 80-something episodes, I think, of this show, and this is the first time I've ever left my phone on.
Tisk, tisk.
I'm not very good at this.
We're a lot out of practice.
No.
That's okay.
Just not very good at it. So this week it's funny that we read a Georgia story because we're going to Georgia this week.
Oh, perfect.
We're actually going back to a place that we have talked about before. We are going to the beautiful, and I do actually mean beautiful for once, Savannah, Georgia.
Yay. I love Savannah.
Now, a little fun fact that I didn't include in the stories or anything this week, but something I found very interesting. I was doing some research for this episode, and I watched a video. I wish I would have wrote her name down. It was a pretty decent video. It was just like a lot of facts, some girls talking about all this.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that Boston and probably New York would have the largest Irish heritage celebrations in the United States. Well, that's not true.
Wow.
After New York, the largest one is in Georgia.
Holy crap.
Because I guess what happened was back during the days of when the Irish were immigrating to America, people didn't like the Irish very much. There was a lot of prejudice against Irish folk, and they would put out signs to say Irish need not apply. So a lot of them migrated south to Georgia because Georgia was fully ready to hire all of them to do the job down there.
Wow.
So there's a huge Irish heritage community in Savannah, Georgia.
That is super interesting.
Never heard that in my life.
Wow,
I'm originally from a town outside of Boston, and everybody I know pretty much has somebody or they are Irish, in their family. So I was very surprised to find that out. It was interesting. And the only reason I bring that up is because we are talking about one of those great Irish immigrants today who he kind of lived the American dream, and he built a place in Savannah, Georgia called
the Kehoe House.
That's right, the Kehoe House. Now, this place has never been anything other, but beforehand, I guess I say. It is something else today because it was built almost 100 years ago. Actually, maybe a little over 100 years ago now. But it is today the Kehoe Bed and Breakfast, I believe is what it's called. So they have held on to the name.
Right.
And the pictures are super cool. They're super cool.
Super?
Yes, I don't know why I said it like that. I caught myself.
Super duper.
But this was a very interesting one. I'm glad I did this one. There's some cool stuff in here. There's some twisted stuff in here. This is one of them stories that kind of has it all.
Okay.
And it's in Savannah.
Super excited.
So what do you say? Let's go ahead with this one.
All right. Let's do it.
Away we go. In the late 1800s, the Redemption era in Georgia marked a return to power of several antebellum and wartime leaders, most notably the group known as the Bourbon Triumvirate, consisting of former Confederate Governor Joseph E. Brown and former Confederate Generals John B. Gordon and Alfred H. Colquitt. These three politicians maintained power within Georgia as governors and U.S. senators from 1872 until 1890. Capitalizing on their positions to industrialize the state, often for their own profit. The Triumvirate's efforts were bolstered by Henry W. Grady, the editor of the Atlanta Constitution, who spearheaded a crusade to build a prosperous, quote, New South that would be centered around Atlanta. Using his considerable journalistic and oratorical skills, Grady fashioned an emotional portrait of Atlanta, which had placed Milledgeville as the state capital in 1868, rising like a phoenix from the ashes of war to become the capital of a dynamic and progressive New South. The vision he articulated for much of the 1880s stood very much at odds with both the reality and the broad national impression of Atlanta, as well as the state at large, by the turn of the century. Despite Grady's vision, Georgia remained predominantly rural, with most of the state's citizens attempting to survive as farmers. The loss of the slave labor force dealt a severe blow to cotton production, which, compounded by a decline in the demand for cotton worldwide, left Georgia agriculture in dire financial circumstances. Neglected by a government focused on industrial and business opportunities, farmers had no choice but to participate in the tenant and crop lien systems which imposed an exploitive and stifling credit system. By 1880, 45% of Georgia's farmers, black and white, had been driven into tenancy, and by 1922, 2/3 of farmers worked on land they did not own, most often as sharecroppers. The rise of the Farmers Alliance and the Populist Party in Georgia during the late 19th century allowed farmers to protest the situation. Formerly organized in 1892, the Populist Party, under the leadership of Thomas E. Watson, offered a platform of banking and railroad reform, as well as cooperative farm exchange. For many elite white and politically entrenched Georgians, the true danger of populism lay not in its economic policies, but in its racial inclusiveness, as black farmers were encouraged to participate in the new third-party movement. Watson championed the biracial alliance, and he achieved national status as a populist leader, gaining the party's nomination for vice president in 1896, thereby becoming the first Georgian to run on a national ticket since William Harris Crawford in 1824.
I find myself not for the first time.
Even as Watson received this recognition, the Populist Party lost ground nationally when the Democratic candidate, William Jennings Bryan, co-opted their advocacy of the unlimited coinage of silver. Ultimately, the election was lost to the Republican candidate, William McKinley. William Kehoe was an Irish businessman who immigrated to Savannah, Georgia, and he was born on August 21, 1842 in Wexford County, Wexford, Ireland, to Daniel Kehoe and Johanna Rath. He was one of 7 children, including another son, Patrick, who was born in 1830. His family immigrated to the United States in 1851, arriving in Savannah, Georgia on February 28th and settling in the Old Fort neighborhood, an Irish enclave in the city. His father would die at the age of 51 or 52, shortly after their arrival during a yellow fever epidemic. During the Civil War, William Kehoe made bullets in Selma, Alabama for the Confederate Army. After returning to Savannah, he learned the trade of iron molder. He began working for Savannah Machine and Boiler Works. On November 26, 1868, 7 months after the death of his mother, he would come to marry Savannah native Anne Flood, with whom he would go on to have 10 children with. A daughter, Annie, would unfortunately die in her infancy in 1876. He would also go on to name his son Francis Parnell Kehoe, after pro-Tennant Irish national and League leader John Howard Parnell. In 1873, a foundry known as Phoenix Iron Works had been built at today's 660 East Broughton Street in the Trustees' Garden in Savannah. It was owned by James Monahan, who had left Savannah Machine and Boiler Works to start out on his own. He would bring Kehoe and John Rourke along with him. 4 years later, Monahan sold the foundry to Thomas Mulligan and set up a new location just a few hundred feet away, called Phoenix Architectural Works, and by 1877, William Kehoe would become a foreman there. In 1879, Kehoe and Ellen Monahan, widow of James, were made co-owners of the business. Kehoe bought Monahan's share of the business the following year and renamed it Kehoe Iron Works. Around a decade later, the property was purchased by the Savannah Gas Company, and Kehoe moved to a new building on the Savannah River. He would go on to pass the ironworks business to his sons, Simon and William. Kehoe would still be listed as its chairman in 1912. After his business boomed, Kehoe had a stately manor built in 1892 on Columbia Square for his wife and 10 children. Its cost at the time was a whopping $25,000. This Queen Anne brick mansion was built as a single-family residence in 1893 by architect DeWitt Bruyn. The dark red brick mansion features Corinthian columns, bay windows beneath the parapet, single, double, and triple windows, a truncated turret, and variegated roofline. Surrounded by balconies and porches, tourists are often surprised to learn that Kehoe even used cast iron for all the exterior trim. William Kehoe would die of pneumonia on December 29, 1929 in Savannah. He would live to be the age of 87 years old. His wife Anne would unfortunately die 9 years before him on December 30th, 1920 at the age of 73. He was one of the city's oldest residents at the time of his death and was survived by 7 of his 10 children. His funeral was held at the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, of which he was a member. He is interred in Savannah's Catholic Cemetery on Wheaton Street with almost all of his family. It is not known where infant Annie was buried, and Kehoe's son Daniel was interred in Savannah's Greenwich Cemetery upon his death in 1954. Just 37 years after its completion, Kehoe's heirs sold the home in 1930, and over the years it was turned into the Goet Funeral Home, a boarding house, and for a short time, NFL legend Joe Namath's private residence. Some say his short-lived partners were actor Burt Reynolds and Playboy founder Hugh Hefner and rock star Joe Walsh, guitarist for the classic rock band The Eagles. There were even rumors of the old home becoming a nightclub. Now, it should be noted for this story that back in 1969, just months after winning Super Bowl III, Namath tearfully announced his retirement from football because he didn't want to give up his stake in his New York singles bar, Bachelor's 3. A few months later, he relented, sold his share of the bar, and would return to football. But apparently, his love of the nightlife never faded, and his intention was to turn the majestic Kehoe house into a nightclub. Of course, the other residents of Columbia Square were not too happy, so he abandoned the idea. In 1990, Namath would sell the property. It would be renovated for 2 years and opened once again. The property was then sold again in 2003, and they now own the property to this day, carrying on as the historic bed and breakfast. The house originally had 12 different rooms. It also had a small townhouse that could be found across the courtyard that would have had a bed and 2 suites. This was an area where many people have gone. Today it is known for being a great place to have a romantic getaway or even a honeymoon. Savannah is known for being one of the most paranormal cities in the United States. It's a hotspot for many people who are looking to find a place to see ghosts and experience paranormal activity. Many of the buildings in Savannah are known for being haunted. However, the one with the best reputation is by far the Kehoe house. If you're looking to find an area that is beautiful and historic, this is most definitely the place. However, it is also a place where you need to make sure that you are prepared. If you go into this bed and breakfast, be aware of what you may see or feel. They claim you're not alone when you're staying here. The Kehoe house is a beautiful house with a colorful history. There have been so many people in and out of the building that it's hard to keep track of it. Be aware that you might feel a phantom hand or even smell perfume when staying there. The place is known for being luxurious and haunted. With that being said, taking the time to learn about the place before you enter is highly advised. It is indeed a very beautiful and luxurious place if you're not afraid to stay there because of all the tall tales that you are sure to hear about. And who knows, they may not actually be all tall tales after all.
Wow. I must say that this place sounds absolutely gorgeous. Like, just a pristine older house that was just built right, you know?
I honestly think what draws me to this place mostly is the fact that there's not any ill history here.
Yeah.
Nobody was murdered or anything. This is Like, what was the house in Fort Lauderdale? I already forgot. It's been a little while now. The Stranahan house.
The Stranahan
where
house,
people,
yes.
It was just a family home.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't
anything super crazy.
Well,
there wasn't like.
Well, I think the main part is there's no controversy surrounding this family. There's no rumors surrounding this family.
Right.
This was just a immigrant who came to America, lived the American dream, became wealthy. You know, he worked hard his whole life, raised his family, died as the oldest man in town.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, and passed it down to his kids, who one day sold it, go off and do their own thing. And I don't know, it's reminiscent of a time past. You know, we used to live in America where even when I was born, you could have a dad with a 40-hour-a-week job that could buy a house and cars, and, you know, your mom would stay home and raise you. But that kind of time has passed, so it's kind of nice to read about stuff like that. I'm not saying, like, women shouldn't be liberated or anything. Of course they should. It's a different day and age. It's just more about the financial gains of the time,
Right.
versus now where life has become substantially harder.
Right.
You know, and so I'm used to reading all these stories, too, that have all these dark stories attached to the people in the family.
And we have read many.
A lot of them.
Many.
This one just doesn't have that.
It doesn't. I like it.
Just living the American dream.
I like that they said it was a single family home, yet it had like how many rooms? Like
12 rooms.
like a lot. That's not a single family home.
The townhouse that I brought up towards the end was actually the original family home.
Oh, that makes sense.
That was the first place they built. They lived there, and then I think it was like a year later, they built the manor.
That makes sense. Okay.
And there's, like, if you go there now, I believe that townhouse is where people have, like, wedding receptions. It's kind of like a little event center.
Yeah, that's
Very
super
pretty.
cool.
It's super pretty. I mean, it's Savannah, Georgia. If you live in the South, or you've been to Georgia or something, if you've been around the area, you know Savannah is it's a very pretty place. I couldn't get it out.
It is. It really, really is.
Not quite the Atlanta. Sorry, Atlanta. We drove through there. It was awful.
We did. It was terrifying.
Yeah, it was not good.
At like 10:30 at night, and it was like
it was cool.
It was like it was 5 p.m. There was so much traffic. It was insane.
So much around that story of driving through there.
Oh yeah.
But whatever. We made it.
It's fine.
But that's the Kehoe house. And there are some stories and rumors around what happens at the house now.
Some allegedly things.
Some allegedly claimed and reportedly's, and all the stuff that we like to talk about. Yeah.
Nice.
But before we get into that, of course, we have to take an ad break. We'll be right back.
And now, Booze Crew, let's get back to it. It never ceases to amaze people just how haunted Georgia, especially the Savannah area, is thought to be. From the Savannah Theater to the Pirate's House and a haunted cemetery and everything in between, Savannah really may be the most haunted place in the world. But it seems there is one place that may sit on top of the list: the haunted Kehoe house. But why the well-known haunted reputation of this home? Two major reasons. One, it was a funeral home for a time. Operating as the Goet Funeral Home, we are sure an immeasurable number of bodies came through the doors. 2. The rumor about the Kehoe twins. The Kehoe family, of course, consisted of 10 children, and rumor has it that 2 of them died in the house. Built on Columbia Square in Savannah, Georgia, the Kehoe house was built for William Kehoe and his family. They lived in the house for a number of years with their children. It is known that some of their children passed away inside the house that sits at 123 Habersham Street. Guests who have decided to stay at the Kehoe house have reported all kinds of paranormal events happening around them. while inside the old home. With children having passed away in the home, it is no coincidence that the ghosts of children are just some of the most commonly reported spooky occurrences in the house. It has been said that spirits of the Kehoe twins still remain inside the walls of this historic house. Keep in mind that this story has been heavily debunked over the years. It goes like this. The 6-year-old sons of William Kehoe were playing hide-and-go-seek inside the chimneys when they became stuck and eventually died. It is known, however, that at least one, perhaps even two, of the Kehoe girls died of either yellow fever or scarlet fever inside the house. They claim the ghosts of the children can be seen running through the halls and popping up in rooms at any given times, only to disappear moments later. Lights are claimed to flash on and off. Doors are said to lock and unlock themselves at random. And even the doorbell allegedly rings, even though no one is at the door. Several guests have even reported feeling their beds dip and then seeing the indentations of an invisible entity, as if someone is sitting with them on their bed. Allegedly, some of the staff have also reported hearing the voice of a young boy echoing throughout the room they were sitting in, asking them to come play with him. Shadows are said to fly by the staircases. A lot of people are convinced this location is haunted, believing that the spirits of the Kehoe family definitely linger there to this day. It's not hard to see why many believe that one, or even all, of the Kehoes are attached to their former home. There are unfortunately even stories of disgusting sexual things that went on during its time as a functional funeral home. One guest claims that while lounging on an antique couch in front of the sitting room, a spirit whispered soft, hissing, unintelligible words into their ear, and that the air around the room became spontaneously cold. Some guests report something possibly a bit spookier, the sound of gurney wheels, almost as if the sound of bodies being brought into the funeral home are still replaying over and over again. Some guests talk of a tall man, almost as tall as the doorways, passing through the rooms of the home and floating down the hallways. He's seen with no legs, just a torso and head, hovering around the home, checking on its visitors. People commonly state that he doesn't scare them, that his energy is a very warm one. However, seeing a legless floating man is sure to make the hairs on your neck stand up. So, what exactly is happening here? One possible explanation could be found when you consider residual hauntings. Residual hauntings are when events or sounds from the past seemingly replay themselves in an alleged haunted location. It's no mystery that many children have lived in the Kehoe house well before it was known as a haunted bed and breakfast. Is it possible that what the Kehoe guests are experiencing is actually the replaying of a residual imprint that those children have left on the house? Is it possible? There aren't any well-known stories we know about where ghosts of the children are said to have interacted with any of the guests. Instead, it just seems to be the sound of children playing that are claimed. This would bring most of us to believe that when it comes to the ghosts of children at the Kehoe house, that a residual haunting is most likely what is happening here. Another ghostly experience that is claimed to occur at the Kehoe house is the sudden smell of perfumes from an age past, drifting their way through the hallways and bedrooms of this allegedly haunted Savannah bed and breakfast. It is believed that at least one of the spirits, believed to be hanging around, is one of an intelligent variety. An intelligent haunting, of course, is one where spirits appear to recognize the living and can interact with them. And it is claimed that this occurs all the time within the walls of this house. It is believed that because of this, it may explain why guests staying at the Kehoe house often report the feeling of someone touching when they sleep. Numerous people who have stayed at the Kehoe house have reported this ghostly phenomena. Just imagine laying in bed peacefully, relaxing after a long day of exploring Savannah, and the next thing you know, you feel a phantom hand on your head, or maybe even grabbing your arm. Alarming, to say the least. A couple reviews from Kehoe House from people who have visited it goes as follows. Donna Wansey from TripAdvisor writes, quote,
"Doors getting locked from the inside. Forces holding doors from opening. Things getting moved inside the room. 2 people in our group could hear sounds of children laughing and calling for mommy. One at 12 p.m. on the 3rd floor and another at 3:30 a.m. on the ground level. But there were no kids staying at the inn. Management said only moms can hear the children. Dads never hear the voices. No joke, this place is haunted."
RJ Lando from TripAdvisor writes, quote,
"Beautiful old house in the perfect location. I had a recent injury, so stairs can be challenging in these older properties, but they had a great elevator that gave access to all floors and the courtyard area. Our room had a private and semi-private deck, which was an amazing benefit. And did I mention the ghosts? My wife had an eerie experience in the Merker room. Our ghost tour guide suggested it was a child ghost. I am not welcoming to such experiences, but we have a great story now, and we would eagerly stay in that room again."
And one more from TripAdvisor. JMSHS5 writes, quote, "Everyone that worked there went above and beyond to help make our visit the best it could be. The only complaint I would have would be to tell the ghosts to leave me alone so I could sleep better. But they couldn't help me with that. LOL." Since the home is operating as a bed and breakfast, the possibility of experiencing these strange occurrences yourself is within reach. The home has worn many masks throughout its life and has a truly colorful history. A century of existence created a time capsule, a rare glimpse into Savannah's past and one of its most historic areas. Now one of 3 historic inns of Savannah, the Kehoe home offers not just a peek into the past, but a glimpse into the spirit world. Whether you believe that the ghostly children here died in the chimney, or if you believe that the home is just old but empty of ghosts, it's still worth staying and enjoying the history. Just don't be surprised when an ice cold hand shakes you out of your sleep in the dead of night.
Us dads are just better at tuning it out. And may I say, funeral home, not exactly Tinder.
No.
Pretty gross.
Yeah, I think a lot of that history lends to the possibility of maybe some ghostly happenings.
I think more stuff like that happens than you know, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's pretty gross.
Agreed.
This is what they make Tinder and Bumble and all that stuff for.
Right. Not that.
Man. It's gross. Well, we've got there's literally a little bit of everything happening at the Kehoe house.
Yeah.
There are apparitions, residual hauntings, intelligent hauntings. We got floating people.
Floating half people.
Yeah, poltergeist activity with the doors locking and
Yeah.
lights flashing and everything. And it's I want to believe that the Kehoe family could be the ones there because it was their house. Mm-hmm. But nothing bad really ever happened there, or I don't know. They really didn't. If you really think of it in the grand scheme of things, for a mansion, because usually mansions stay in a family for a really long time.
Right.
And this one was only in the family for, it was like 37 years or something.
Yeah, and I don't think it stayed in the family long after he passed.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was
Yeah.
like 37 years total from
Right.
from the day it was built till the day they sold it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. There's really no way to explain why something is haunted. If we could, then we wouldn't be doing this show.
Exactly.
Right? We wouldn't have to ask each other, do you think it's haunted? We would just know.
Right.
So there's just a lot happening here. Unfortunately, I can't find any EVPs.
Boo.
I tried. Like, I really tried. Next week, tune in, because I have a feeling we're going to have absolutely no issues finding some.
Oh.
But
Yay.
it's very unfortunate, because I was just looking for anything I could, any kind of anything. There's a lot of videos, but they're more like historic videos.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed this place. This is
It's a cool one.
another one that we rarely get, like we talked about earlier, that
This is the American dream.
doesn't have all the crazy, gross.
I mean, it was pretty gross, talking about diddling the dead.
Well,
Oh, yeah, I'm forever
you
immortalized.
know what I
saying that.
mean? Like it was a family home, and besides the funeral home bit, I guess, it was a really nice place to be, and people are still go there to have weddings and
it's beautiful. It is
happy, gorgeous things.
It is a lovely location. I mean, it is.
I'm definitely gonna have to look this up.
It is everything you would think about, like old Southern charm.
Oh,
I mean,
I love that.
Yeah, it's super nice.
I love that.
And we might be Utahns now.
We don't see a lot of the southern houses around here like that.
You can take us out of the South, but you ain't gonna take the South out of us.
No, y'all ain't.
You know what I'm saying?
You ain't gonna do
So
that.
there will always be a special place in our hearts for the South.
Yes, there will.
The history and the buildings and whoa.
Dude.
Did every light in here just flicker?
Yep, sure did. I was just making sure that I wasn't the only one seeing that.
That was creepy.
Wow. Literally every LED light
man.
we have strip lights that run around this entire room. The entire basement just went dark for a second.
I didn't like that. But anyways,
Moving on.
we love Utah. It's amazing. Well, I mean, we really do love Utah. But
We do. It's amazing. We were going to go hiking today, but
yeah, why didn't we go hiking? What happened?
because my sciatic is
All right,
being mean.
Grandma.
Well,
I'll get out of this dungeon eventually. But even though we have no EVPs, we still have to move on to the portion of the show and ask a question.
Is it the question?
It is the question that goes, is it real? Well, Megan, the Kehoe house in beautiful Savannah, Georgia. We're all on the edge of our seats because we want to know whether or not you think it's really haunted.
I really want to be like, yes, absolutely, 100%. But
Is it a big butt? I like big butts, and I cannot lie.
nope, it's a little butt like mine.
It's not that little.
I'm probably going to say like a 70-30. There's not a lot of
70-30 in which direction, though?
Like-
you can't just say 70-30 and expect everybody to know.
Can I finish, please?
Yes, but
Thank you.
I was trying to get to the point.
Thank you. I ramble. You know this.
Yeah, I know. I edit.
Everyone else knows this, okay?
I edit.
They know. It's okay.
They better be happy. There'd be a lot of pauses. I do the same thing, though.
This is true. But I think, like, again, 70-30. Like, I don't feel like there's a lot of evidence on this place. There's not, which I think there could be from the sounds of things. Do I believe it, the 70% of the haunting that I'm talking about, specifically for you, babe, is it the Kehoe family? I have no idea. Is it the kids from the Kehoe family? I don't know. But I think it being in the town of Savannah and Savannah being known for being such a haunted location, that there's a definite possibility. So I'm going to say a tentative yes.
Okay, so you're saying 70 yes, 30 no. Is that
Sure am. Did anybody else get that before him just now?
I don't know.
Anyways, what about you?
I actually think something's happening here.
Okay.
I do. And I think it's because of the same reason, like when we talked about the Stranahan house. This was a situation that nothing tragic happened to, like, horror bond the spirits of these people.
Right.
I think it was more of this was a place where this man came over from Ireland and was probably treated like dirt, but he built up an empire and created this family home with 10 children, and they all very much loved each other.
Yeah.
And I am going to believe, for the sake of believing, that they are the ones haunting this place, that it is not.
That's fair.
It's not dead bodies that were taken advantage of. It just feels weird to say.
It does.
So
don't say that again.
How much of it though? Like, I believe because of the stuff that I read, that a lot of it could probably be residual stuff. Mm-hmm. Because there is a lot of claims online about people like hearing voices of children and stuff. Because even though the story's been super debunked, which I'm assuming these kids probably did, they grew up and like moved out.
Right.
Everybody seems to claim that they hear children.
And that to me does seem like more of a residual thing, especially with that many kids living there at one time.
Well, it's definitely a residual thing because nobody has a story of these things interacting with them. It's always like the same thing.
Just like a giggle off in the distance.
It's like
something.
A giggle. Sometimes they'll call for mommy, or sometimes you'll hear the kids playing. Ugh. But they never like interact with the living people. Mm-hmm. So, and for anybody listening who tends to be more of a skeptic, this is a good point for me. This is a good time for me to point this out. If you do listen to the show and you're a non-believer, when I say residual, I'm not saying it is the spirits of people. I'm saying that this is like something that is stuck on a time loop. It's almost like a view back in time.
Like a memory.
Exactly. That's
stuck.
Been imprinted somewhere. Right. So I've had a lot of talks with like my friends on X, Spaces, whatever, Twitter. And we've gone into like a lot of different scenarios that we think that this could be.
Yeah.
Because we don't always think that this is necessarily hauntings in the way that you would think of a haunting because of a television show. Mm-hmm. It's more of like I said, like an imprint in time.
Yeah.
That just kind of plays over and over. And that's actually what I think is happening here.
Yeah.
I think because it was such a home filled with love and people cared about it so much that whatever that bond was within that family really stuck to that place. And I don't care if you believe that's even possible, because there are scientific claims that say if you are in the South around enough lime rock and water and stuff like that, that it almost acts as like a battery that will charge stuff to stay throughout time.
Yeah.
So boom. Look it up. There's science behind it.
That is an actual thing. And I do believe that when you are around these elements that seem to cause paranormal activity to ramp up or to even stay, I guess, like, kind of ground them there, that
you're grounded.
that's a definite possibility.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what I think. I think for the sake of the show, yes, I believe it's haunted.
Okay.
But if you want to get down to it, I think it's a residual thing. And who knows? Maybe there
Fair
is. Maybe there is intelligent one too, because people do claim to get touched in the poltergeist activity. But
I mean, that could be from the funeral home. That could be.
But that's hard.
Anybody just wandering and then like, hey, I like it here.
But that's hard for me to fully get on board with, only because I feel like if this has happened so many times, there should be some kind of video evidence or something.
Something.
Out
Yes.
there. Some whatever. That means that this week it gets
the big old seal of approval.
And yeah, so that is
Yay.
the Kehoe house in beautiful Savannah, Georgia. Now, I'm going to throw this out there now that next week's episode is more than likely going to be a part 1 of a 2-part. So
We haven't done one in so long.
Megan may get to talk about some history next week.
Ooh.
It's going to be probably some dark stuff, though.
Oh, well,
It's
not great.
This place doesn't have the happy, feely ties. It's pretty gnarly.
Well, at least we could kick off being back with a good episode with,
Yes.
a
And
little lighthearted one before we get into the nitty-gritty stuff.
Oh, yeah. And it's going to be a kind of location that we haven't done in a while. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited now.
So
Yes.
It was
I'm excited every week.
This
but-
was one that was requested, I think, about a year ago. So,
Oh.
but I knew it was going to be a big one. So I wanted to get some time of doing the show before we could do it well. So remember to come on back. And where can they find us?
Well, they can find us on Instagram at @forthebooze_podcast and on Facebook at @forthebooze.
You can also find us on Twitter at @forthebooze. X now, but whatever, For the Booze. You can also find us on YouTube at For the Booze if you want to watch it on your TV or something, which I kind of like. It's pretty fun. And also, don't forget to come support us on TikTok. It's not just for children dancing to pop songs anymore. It now belongs to the spooky stuff as well.
Yes.
So come like our videos and comment on them and whatever. We're going to put more little TikToks up. I've been slacking, but I got a microphone for it, so it's going to get better. And there's one other thing that we need you folks to do.
Yes, there is.
What is it?
That would be rate and review. Give us 5 stars. Say hi. Comment, say whatever you would like to do. Say whatever you would like. We don't care. I don't know why I said it that way. No, but it really helps out the show, and it could give us some traction to take this where we would like it to go.
Man, should I write to you and tell you what I want to do?
Maybe not online, but yes, in person, absolutely.
I live with you. And also don't forget to send in your listener suggestions and your stories, your spooky stories.
Yes.
Look, we want them all. It doesn't have to be ghosts in nature. It could be, it could be cryptids or aliens or anything that revolves around the paranormal. I know we don't talk about that stuff much, but we still do enjoy it a little bit.
We do. Absolutely.
So,
or if you have any, homicide stories, like our friend.
Vic Ferrari.
That's right.
Coolest name ever. But send those in to fortheboost12@gmail.com. We're still there, or you could just write in to say hi and talk to us. That's how, Joe Mattern became friend of the show. He just started emailing, and we talk every once in a while. And we have something very special from him for next week's episode.
Yay.
And I cannot wait to listen to them with everybody because I haven't listened to them yet. I saved them for the show.
Yes. I love when you do that.
I guess this is where we're going to end it.
I guess it is. And it has been so great to be back. So thank you, everybody, so much for listening. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.